Hey everyone, so today we're going to learn about the coefficient of determination, also known as R squared. So in our last video, we went over the concept of standard error. And that gave us some estimate of, or some idea of how certain we could be about a particular prediction of y using the regression equation. But sometimes it doesn't really tell us though how well the independent variable, that is the x variable, explains the variation in the y dependent variable. So we do have something that can help us with that, and that's called the coefficient of determination. So it measures the fraction of the total variation in y dependent variable that is explained by the independent variable. So what do I mean by that? So we can think of, first let's think of, if we didn't have a regression equation or any regression relationship, what would be our best guess of the value of y? Or in this case, the value of apple returns. What we could do is we could just take the mean of all the observed values. That would be our best guess. So we can measure that accuracy. We can measure that by taking each observed value, or apple return, excess return, minus the average of all the observed values, and then squaring it and finding the sum. That is total variation. We can think of that as total variation. Now we can look at unexplained variation. And remember, we already calculated unexplained variation. Unexplained variation, an alternative is the alternative to using the mean of the observed values. Instead of using the mean of the return values, we have our predicted value by using a regression equation. And we can find that variation. So now we know that we have the total variation and the unexplained variation. We can solve for explained variation. And that essentially is what R squared is. So we already actually solved for unexplained variation up here above. So remember that. That was the residual from the equation, what the equation predicted. So let's see if we can actually calculate this in Python. So first what we need to do is let's take a look at our data frame first. So we have our y variables and we have our x variables. So y, remember, that's our apple excess returns, and our x variable is our excess returns of the market. And remember, in our first equation here of total variation, we need to find the average. We're finding the variation or deviation from the average of all the observed values. And that is of y. And our y here is apple excess returns, r minus rf. So we need to find the average of this. So to do that, we can just take our data frame and we can look at that column, r minus rf, and apply that mean function. There we go. So we're going to initialize this to the variable mean for now. And now what we need to do is we need to find that deviation from that mean for each of these observed values. So to do that, we can just take our column, df, r minus rf, and subtract it from the mean. And we're going to create a new column, and we're going to call this deviation from mean. And that's just going to be equal to our column for each observed value minus the mean. So we'll run that. And now let's see if we have that new column, and we should. There we go, deviation from mean column. Now what we need to do, as you can see in our equation, is we just need to square these. So we're going to square these deviations. So to do that, we're just going to create a new column, and we're going to call this squared deviation. And that's just going to be equal to, again, our new column that we just created, deviation from mean. And we're going to square it like so. So let's take a look at what that looks like here. There we go. We have our squared deviation. And now all we need to do is sum these values up. So we'll just take our column, squared deviations, squared deviation, dot sum. There we go. And we're going to initialize this and call this total var, total variance. There it is. And now we have to find our unexplained variation. So we've actually already calculated this earlier. This is our squared residuals. So again, let's just take our squared residuals, and we're going to call this unexplained var. And that's just going to be equal to our squared residuals. Sum. There we go. And now we can find our R squared. So remember, to find R squared, we look here, we just take our total variation minus an unexplained variation divided by total variation, because R squared is a percentage. So we're going to just take, we'll call this R2 is just equal to total var minus unexplained var. And that's going to be all divided by total variance. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. And let's verify if this is correct from our output, from our regression summary. Up here, 0.236 R squared, 0.2359, 0.36. There it is. There's our R squared. So we've calculated the coefficient of determination. So if you like this video, please subscribe. Till next time. Thank you. So again, what is R squared, or the coefficient of determination, telling us? What is that statistic telling us? It is telling us, it is measuring the fraction of the total variation in the dependent variable, that is the Apple X which returns, that is explained by the independent variable, the market X which returns. So if you like this video, please subscribe. Till next time.